Hello, I'm Dick Miller, and sitting next to me is my good friend, Senator Jeff Smith, and glad to see you here in Trempealeau County today. The weather is wonderful.
It is. We're in June, and we're having a beautiful spring, summer weather now.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to give a weather report because once this show airs, we don't know what might be happening. Then it could be raining or snowing.
Today's the 10th of June.
Yeah,
and it's great. Yeah, it's great.
It's nice out there.
Yeah.
We've had some nice weather, and we've been fortunate. The beans are up. The corn is up in places. We hope well for the farmers.
Yeah, from what I've heard from people, they're really pleased with how things have come up fast now. As we're getting those nighttime rains and warm days and just almost perfect conditions right now.
Yeah, it's.
Hope it continues.
Yeah, the gardens are looking nice too. So they keep them growing. And just a reminder, the farmers markets are starting, and encourage everybody to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
They have wonderful produce.
Yeah. I'm actually planning on hitting the farmers market today before I leave Whitehall.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It's been kind of a quiet time in the legislature, but before we move into that quiet time, primaries are coming up. What day is, do you remember the date?
August 9th. August 9th are primaries.
August 9th.
And as a matter of fact, here we are on the 10th of June. This is the day we're 10 days in from when people turned in their signatures as candidates. And today's the day that the Wisconsin Elections Commission is meeting and determining whether people made the cut. If they got enough signatures, if they're legal signatures, if their papers are legal, and then we'll know for certain after today who's on the ballot.
Who's nominated. Now, do they have to have them turned in today?
We had to have them turned in on the 1st.
Oh, the 1st. Okay, so they've had to
been
review
going
them.
through those signatures because we're talking thousands and thousands of signatures to be sure that they were legally signed, and plus the language on the forms, which is we've heard that a couple candidates, including a governor candidate, has an issue. So.
Well, we've picked up various places in the country where certain people have not been included after they've looked at the papers.
That may happen here.
There have been some issues.
So you have to have your correct address where you vote on there, and that seems to have tripped a few people up.
And I think it lists the township or the city, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and
right.
that would
be
even
your home address is on there. Yeah.
Okay. And so when do you think that we will know the people who did clear the first
Today's
hurdle?
the day. Today's the day. They are meeting today with those.
So it should be the news the next few days then.
Well, I know in one case we may see that go to court too.
Oh, okay. Because
they don't quite accept the rules, but we'll see.
I'll make a judgment statement here. To run for county board, it only requires 20 signatures. How many does it take for you guys?
400 minimum.
To run for Senate?
For state Senate. Okay. 200 in Assembly.
Every time I have run, I thought, I've got to go out and get 20 signatures. And it's not that hard. It takes some time, and you get to visit with your neighbors a few minutes.
Oh, I love the signature signing time. It is the best time to actually meet people that you normally don't get a chance to meet.
Yeah, and sometimes they may have some advice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's okay. I guess if people have some concerns, you want to hear them. I know you travel in that pickup of yours with a sign up and say, "Stop, visit with me." And visit with you, I should say.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, you're one of those guys that likes to people to stop.
I do. I guess I'm a social kind of person. I like the conversations, and I really do enjoy that. And how else are we supposed to know how people are thinking if we're not personally there to hear?
Well, and I think it's more important that they share it with you than talk behind your back and say things that I think they need to share their concerns and give you a chance to respond.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because what I've learned is it's gotten a little different now. Mm-hmm. It's not as easy now, and I want to encourage people, if we disagree, doesn't mean that I'm not listening or you're not listening. It's just that we disagree. Mm-hmm. But it's okay to have those conversations and have uncomfortable conversations sometimes, and trade our information. We're getting information from different places. Mm-hmm. I get information from places that you don't, and vice versa. Let's figure this out, because it hurts us all when we won't have those conversations. And I'm beginning to have more and more of those situations where people say, "Oh, you're not on the same team I'm on, and I'm not going to talk to you." Mm-hmm. That's not helpful, right? I'm there open to hear, even as painful as it might be sometimes for me or for you. But I just want to make it clear that sometimes people think, well, I'm not listening because I don't agree with them. That's not the same thing. Those are two different things. I do listen, and I do catalog that information of what someone tells me, even if I don't initially agree. And I keep that in mind as time goes on, as maybe that person had some information I didn't know about before. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree. It's really very important, and it's like living in any neighborhood. You're going to have people of a diverse political involvement or leaning, yeah. And that doesn't mean you share a lot more. Like you hear this constantly. We share a lot more in common than not.
We really do.
Yeah.
And we have to keep that in mind, and that's the best part. When I do what I do is with the truck. At some point, if we have a conversation that is civil, something will come along that we can all agree on, and it helps to build a little more trust that, hey, we're all in this together, mm-hmm. and there's certain things that we both might want to get done for the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there are oftentimes many ways of going about doing that.
Yeah, there's different,
and
right?
Reaching basically the same.
That's right.
Ends. Yeah. Now moving into this area of active or unactive legislature, yeah. Tell us what is not going on right now.
So, it's really, as we started the conversation about the campaign season right now. So mm-hmm. The legislature, and I think I've mentioned this before, to my disappointment, is recessed as of like the 1st of March. I think a lot of people should be questioning that. Everyone listening to this should be questioning that, as to whether we should actually call it a end of session, mm-hmm. and not do anything serving the people who elect us until next January. We're talking 10 months mm-hmm. of really getting nothing accomplished, at least. Whereas there's a lot going on, and as we all know, there's a lot going on. And again, we may not agree on the solutions, but we certainly should be open to having sessions and committee hearings and an introduction of ideas, even when we are in this period of time when we also will be campaigning for the next election. I personally believe that.
Well, and I would assume that a lot of the legislation that has been proposed dies. Basically, you start all over again.
You'd start over again in January. Absolutely. This is why the governor the only way we can have a potential debate or discussion about issues is the governor calls a special session, which he has done recently. We just need the party in charge, the majority party, which is the Republican Party in the legislature, to allow the session to open up then for that special mm-hmm. session.
So what I'm hearing you saying is we have a 10-month period when during every 2 years.
Basically, well, and it hasn't always been that way. I mean, it used to be May, at least 2 more months that we would
Stay in
continue
session.
to stay in session and meet. But it has been pared back more and more and more. And there's lots of theory, or we can talk about why that is, but there's less happening for the good of the people. Now, I will, and I do this all the time, I point out that Congress, as much as we all might have our problems with Congress and how they operate, they don't do it that way. They actually are back in Washington. And they come back, maybe do some campaigning for a month, but then they go back again for another couple weeks. So all the way until September.
They remain active.
They remain. The session is open until September for them. So they get called back all the time. And I mean, think about that. I mean, all we have to do is drive to Madison. They got to fly to Washington.
Yeah, yeah. Years ago, and I think I mentioned this one other time, years ago, Iowa had a part-time legislature, and then they decided that the demand of the job required to be full-time. And we have what we call a full-time legislature here in Wisconsin, but it's only part-time.
It's full-time during the time up until, we break session. But you're in a sense, I know that's, and I hate to be the one to break the news and then have people mad at me about that, but it's out of my control, and I personally like to. I guess I'm the one talking about it. Won't hear many other legislators talk about that, but
so the majority party decides basically how long they remain in session.
They basically do, yeah.
Yeah, and can one party decide to, one house of the legislature decide to stay in session while the other decides not? Or is it kind of one of those things where if they don't both agree?
Well, they could. In fact, they do, and technically, because the state assembly actually ended session the last week of February, whereas the state senate, we were still meeting in the first week of March.
Okay. So it happens that way. So basically, you're not having hearings on any legislation.
No.
You're not having any sessions in Madison.
So here we are, you and me, Dick. There was a hearing on marijuana in March or April, but that was rather disingenuous because of course, we're out of session. And it was more of a campaign, make people feel good that they actually are considering marijuana,
when it's sort of meaningless.
when in fact it's not, actually can't do anything. So if you introduce any bills at this stage, it's just for a show.
And I, sitting here on the outside, it's frustrating for me, and I know it's terribly frustrating for you to want to do your work, and yet you can't do your work.
Yeah, and I understand that. I totally get why people are frustrated with politics for those very reasons. For what I'm just discussing, I know there's a lot of my colleagues would be upset with me for actually saying these things. And I'm not trying to rile anybody up. I would just like to be able to maybe give a little civics lesson of what goes on and why, and it isn't all terrible, but the other part of this is that I run into all the time, you're all alike. I hear that all the time, you're all alike. And that's not necessarily true, and that's not on both sides of the aisle. There are friends who, on the other side of the aisle that I talk to, we can have great conversations and get along just fine. So we're not all alike. We are just like you. We're just people that feel like we have a purpose, and then are frustrated just like you are when we aren't able to accomplish that purpose.
Yeah, and I think not all the people who run for any legislative body, I think most people start out really seriously interested in doing the job. I'm an optimist from that standpoint, but sometimes the system overwhelms people, I think.
Well, look at the fact that this year there are 30 people who are not running for their office. 30 people in the state legislature. So there's 99 assembly seats. They're all on the ballot this year, but this is the odd number year, so it's the 17 state Senate seats. So we're talking about 116. I mean, you may not think 30 out of 117 is a lot, but it is. It's a record number of incumbents who are not seeking their seat. It's various reasons. Some are seeking different seats, but mostly it's been retirements that have taken us by surprise. And who knows why? You can theorize about that too, but some of it is just what you just said. Some people get into this and then they just like, this is not what I thought it would be.
Sure.
Frustration. You have to be part of the leadership to make those decisions that determine whether or not we work, when we work, what bills actually get attention and votes. So, I'm one of those people that I'm hoping to continue to have a voice and work my way into that position to be able to help make those decisions.
Well, I think it's really important to not have a huge turnover each term. I think we oftentimes think, we throw these guys or gals out and things are going to be better. Well, you need new blood, but you need to maintain experience.
Yeah, there's several people we've lost in my house, the Senate, that have hold a lot of institutional knowledge over the last two elections at least, that we're really going to miss. And we do miss. But it's a balance.
Sure.
Some people are ready. I mean, age comes along and says, well, I'm done, I'm aged out. And new people come in and younger, and that's great. Those are good reasons, actually, right? But it's got to be a balance. We need that institutional knowledge as well, because I get asked questions by younger people too that come in. How does this work, and why is this happening, and things like that. It's good to know. It's good to have all that.
Yeah. Well, and I think you tend to, as a body, you tend to make maybe fewer mistakes when you can refer back to past mistakes. You don't have to commit the same thing over and over again. But anyway, we know where the legislature is standing right now. They're pretty much home. There is one guy left in Madison, I understand. And that's the governor. Yeah. Tell us what's happening with the governor.
The governor is still doing his job. He's done some good things as far as directing those federal funds that are coming in. We know ARPA. We're all kind of through that, but I think there's still some ARPA funds that he's distributing. In fact, I read recently that our governor has distributed more than 50% of those ARPA funds to small business and agriculture in the state of Wisconsin. And the average across the country for governors has been only 5% going in that direction to small. I'm not going to judge what other states' needs are and what they did, but I think that's pretty impressive. Our governor has realized where the need was. Now, of course, we're looking at what's coming in and soon to come in for the infrastructure federal money that was passed, bipartisan bill. We call it the BILS, BILS, I think it's called. So that's coming, and I think we're going to see a lot of important projects that the governor's administration is going to distribute towards bridge building, literally and maybe figuratively, broadband expansion, roads, of course, and all sorts of other projects that we would consider to be infrastructure. So,
but now something that reading a report or a flyer that came out regarding the local road improvement programs, and I happened to look to see where the money was allocated, and then I'll ask you maybe first of all, this is state money that's coming out.
LRIP is,
And was this in the budget originally? So
it would have been in our original budget.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. So according to that report, it was, I think, $149 million funds, and I think about 52 million for county projects. Now that looks like a match, according to what I read.
Yes.
It's a 50-50 match with the county or the city or whoever.
It depends on the project. Like
okay.
Bridges, for sure, are match projects, and they also have federal money is matched to state money, to the municipality money, and that's bridges. I know that. I'm looking at that same thing. I think that you got 149 million in state funds for local roads. That's just a quick update as to how our budget, how our money was budgeted and how it was distributed and allocated.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's a lot of numbers here, as you know, and the town road improvement project, that's TRIP. That's 81 funded projects totaling over 25 million. You were looking at the county highway improvement. That was 52 projects.
There were 52 projects, $20 million.
And 20 million.
Yeah, it was 20 million. That's right. Yeah.
And
now these.
Although there's also that was the discretionary funds, and then the supplemental funds also to county was 74 for over 25 million. So we're really looking at almost $50 million into the
counties.
Yeah.
Now, it lists a number of, under each of those categories, it listed a number of projects. Now, those projects haven't necessarily been identified as yet, have they?
Oh, no, yes, they have. That's what that's telling us.
They have been.
Those
have been identified.
Those are the projects that we know of.
Okay.
And that's how that money is being allocated. Each county and municipality, they have submitted, their needs.
And they've been selected for
and then
funding.
they get selected. And usually, for instance, I know how TRIP works because I was a town chair myself, and the county itself, county highway commissioner will sit down with the town representatives, and they pick which projects have priority within their own county, and then that goes to the state, and they will always get funded in that case. It's a matter of working through our priorities locally, and that gives you actually a good demonstration of how local control could work. And I wish it worked in a lot more places, but yeah, for that funding, it does work. Of course, we know we've fallen way behind too, and that's why this federal funding that's coming is going to be very helpful.
Well, I hear in Trempealeau County we have every year when budget season comes around, the priorities of roads are looked at and decided, what needs funding at the earliest potential or the earliest possible time. Always short of money, of course. It's not there, but it'll be interesting because with this infrastructure money coming, I don't think I haven't heard anybody say they really understand how that's going to be funded into the counties or municipalities as yet. And I think here in the county, there has been a real effort to, again, set priorities, and if and when that money becomes available, they can submit their plans.
Yeah, I think it'll work like a grant program, and but similar to this as well, they will be submitting their needs and priorities, and they'll have to make a case for why that money is needed for that particular project.
And that pertains also to towns and cities.
Yeah.
Also, I would imagine, since they operate independent of the county government and the state as well. So we're looking forward to that assistance.
It's about time, right? It's about time. We've all known that we have fallen behind in our maintenance of our roads, and there's no way possible now. We know that towns and counties would never be able to catch up under the current structure that we have because of the cost of a mile of road and the amount of funds that come in each year. It just doesn't add up. So it's really important that we do finally get serious about this and take care of it and get caught up as much as we can.
Absolutely. So we know the governor has been working on that, and I would maybe just for some information that maybe our listeners, our viewers would be interested in. When this program was set up, the legislature must have had some hand in how that was decided, or did they basically say, Governor, you have $149 million worth to work with?
No, yeah, the Joint Finance Committee in our budget process segregates
Okay.
those funds into each of these groupings.
Okay.
Towns, counties, and I like to remind people though that something you may not be aware of. As much as you drive on the highways, towns have the most miles of roads out of all the bodies of government that we have. So they struggle.
Yes, they do. They do. One other thing that came to my attention, that the governor's action to support families during a period of rising costs. Are you familiar with what the governor has done or has worked towards in an effort to relieve some of the pressures on families?
Well, somewhat,
Okay.
right? But that's always, again, there's different points of view how that can really work, and I think there's always concerns about how money goes out and can be abused as well, right? But we can't be focused on the fact that once in a while, it should have gone somewhere else when it goes. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know enough to be able to really expound on how it's going to work or how it has worked. But we certainly know, like I said earlier, the governor has certainly had his priorities in order as far as small business and agriculture, and I trust that the same thing goes here, right? We know who has struggled the most over these last couple of years. Daycare is one of those places,
Sure.
right? That families really need dependable daycare, and we need to find a way, not just through government, but also through private entities, work together to be sure that there is access to quality daycare.
Well, we're getting towards the end today, and I would thank you, Jeff, for coming down. It's though the legislature is taking a long vacation. I don't mean to poke fun at you, Jeff,
No,
but the whole concept kind of.
That's why I bring it up. But it is hard work. Campaigns are hard work, but I hope that you all remember to vote in November.
Okay, primaries are coming. Thank you for viewing this show.